doing, mate? You all right?
Not too bad. I'm just going to adjust my computer settings a bit.
Yeah, no problem.
We can hear you. That seems all right. I haven't done a Zoom meeting before, so excuse my
That's all right.
Zoom virgin, so to speak.
Hey,
How are
you
you? Okay.
started well because your audio works straight away. Because Zoom usually has this conflict with audio sources, so that went
It's
well.
notorious, is it?
Yeah, I've done quite a few of these because I think I mentioned in the email about the other festival, and we've interviewed about 40 people so far about their films. So it's the amount of admin I've done is ridiculous. And
Right.
we received over 100 films for a festival that was born out of nothing with 3 people doing it, and I've sent about over 1,200 emails over the last 12 weeks just for the festival. So it's pretty crazy.
That sounds like my worst nightmare.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Because you gets you away from what you want to do, your artwork, your filmmaking, whatever it is.
And
Admin.
are you actually a filmmaker yourself?
I am. I work as a photographer and videographer for the University of Chester because I'm based in Chester,
Okay.
and I make short films whenever I can. And now I've made a second festival. I've got even less time now. But yeah.
Is it usually a physical festival?
No, this is literally just started, and
Okay.
so about when was lockdown? Was it like 14 weeks ago, something like that?
200 years ago, could
200 years
have
ago,
been.
yeah, in a previous
Did I
life.
have children when it started? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
It's that kind of
exactly.
feeling of it's still going on, and I think it's going to go on for a while. That's the trouble, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah, it really
It's going to
is.
be. I think it's a marathon. We're in for a marathon. I think.
I've turned into a. I don't have children or anything like that, and I've got my fiance. We bought a house recently, and like a year ago, we're doing it up. And when I go out to the public or go to a shop or something, it's like I've turned uh, Mr. Hyde. Do you know what I mean? I honestly believe it. So there's going to be a phase return. Yeah.
Snarling at people.
Oh yeah. Honestly, yeah. Like no one's wearing face masks, all of that, and it's so frustrating. So
That might change.
I
It's
think it's
going to change,
supposed to,
isn't it?
isn't it? Especially in shops.
Yeah, I
And
think it's a good idea.
I feel sorry for like supermarket workers who tell ignorant people that come in, you've got to wear a mask now.
Oh, it's interesting. I had a friend who works in Sainsbury's, local to me, and they've had very few cases. So I'm not sure what this virus is playing at. It seems to be,
Yeah,
it seems to be spreading in certain areas and not in others. So it's
I know. It's
it's
almost
a
like it's
bizarre old
planned, isn't
thing.
it? It's crazy. So
It's a
yeah,
real horror show.
oh no, absolutely. So we started it, myself and someone I work with, Chris. We started the Isolation Film Festival about 14 weeks ago, a week
Right.
before lockdown, or 15 weeks ago. And we thought, oh, let's see. Originally, it was going to be between me and him to send each other short films and to keep ourselves occupied. And then I thought, well, why don't we open up further to a festival online? And then since then, we had no sponsorship or anything like that at that point. And for that festival, we had films from 5 continents, from multiple countries: Australia, New Zealand, Israel, Germany, Colombia. It was crazy, absolutely crazy. And
That's incredible.
the quality was, uh, some of them are stellar, and I mean stellar. And then some are good, and then some are great storytelling, but the execution's not as good as the others. So the standards are great. I kind of wanted that. I didn't want just one thing and make it difficult. I wanted to kind
Yeah.
of give everyone an opportunity. So we had like 10-year-olds doing stop animations, hand drawn things that you'd appreciate. Nowhere near your lane though in terms of horror, but
Oh, I
but
don't know. Yeah, I seem to have this. Yeah, I seem to be a bit typecast, but I'm happy being typecast.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, so, some of your work, man. Yeah, like that.
See, I don't see. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
How I got onto your work was a friend of mine knew you years ago. I didn't know you personally, but knew your work from 2000 AD. And then I just looked at the hashtag Ramsey Campbell and I saw the Twisted Fingers picture.
Oh,
I was
the
like,
hands, yeah.
oh, that's great, that's great. And then I spoke to Ramsey, and he didn't know the piece of. I showed him the picture, and he loved it. He absolutely loved it. And
I know you said about it that it was worse than it was worse than he actually imagined, which made me quite happy actually.
yeah, oh yeah, because you kind of that'll push him to make things even more terrifying, you know.
I
So
mean, the thing is, Ramsey doesn't show much, does he? And if you've got a
no.
good imagination, that's where Ramsey really excels, because it just plays this
Oh yeah,
game with your head. I mean, is it the tunnel with the witch and the monkey
that's
thing?
right.
And
Yeah, yeah.
oh,
And
Jesus.
he was telling me about going to the. I don't know if you know the story. Going to the school. A teacher years ago in Liverpool asked him to go and do a talk about horror and horror writing, and the only student that came up and gave him a load of questions and all that was Clive Barker. And then
Oh, really?
And then he became very good friends with him, under his wing, influenced him quite a bit, and it was really interesting talking to him about that. So my idea for the Hellbound Horror Festival, obviously you can tell by the logo, it's Hellraiser influence. But
Yeah.
I wanted to do something not alternative to what I'd already created, an isolation film festival, which we're doing next year.
Right.
And we've got sponsored, we've got like financial support now, which is great. All the costs are covered, everything like that. So it's, it's green shoot, it's a small thing, but the reputation's there. And I wanted to do horror because I love it so much. And the other two
Yeah.
people I work with, they were like, oh no, I want to get back to my other work and all of that. Fair enough. So I'm doing everything for this one, which I'm quite happy
Right.
about. And then I thought, so on the previous one, we had a cinematographer for mainly music videos called Vance Burberry, who's worked with everyone. He shot Sweet Child of Mine for Guns N' Roses.
Oh, really?
He's massive. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. He's worked with Alice Cooper, Garth Brooks, Britney Spears, Willie Nelson. And I just sent him an
Right.
email saying, would you be interested in being a judge for cinematography? Because at that point, we had enough films to, to say, do you want to judge these? And then we had the directors duo who've worked on Ant-Man and worked for BMW and all these other big companies. So it was really nice. So we had those judges
Yeah.
after we had the bulk of the films. But this time I thought, let's try it slightly differently. I wanted to have, like yourself and the other two judges, I wanted something from different disciplines. So when you
Good
said
idea.
to me, in the email about being, what was it? Slightly
Intimidating.
intimidating. I was like, I understand that in terms of the
Yeah.
sheer volume of the work that say Ramsey puts out. But don't be intimidated, because this is the whole point of what I wanted to get. And then obviously Alex Proyas confirmed with me, and then I sent that to you in the email. It's just incredible, because you and I
Yeah.
both agree that Dark City is a phenomenal piece of work and influence to make the Wachowskis with The Matrix.
It's very underrated, isn't it? I think
Visually, it's absolutely
it's
stunning.
it's one of the best, isn't it?
Yeah, and then like he's independently spirited as well. If you watch any of his mystery clock stuff on YouTube, because he does a fair bit on YouTube live streams, that kind of
Okay.
thing.
I'll have to check that out then.
He
Yeah.
talks to other filmmakers, and yeah, he's really interesting. He talks about his films, his techniques. He runs a virtual studio now. You know, these virtual sets they make for TV shows, big shows.
Oh yeah, yeah. All on green screen, is it?
Exactly, yeah. But you can see your results immediately, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
So he runs that. He runs his own in Australia now. I was like, he's never going to respond to me, And then he sent me a DM about the other festival. He said, I'd love to do it next year. I'm sorry if I'm too late for this year. And I said, well, you're not necessarily too late. Would you be interested in doing this Hellbound festival I want to start? And then I waited and I kind of sent him a DM, and my email got into his spam. He apologized, really sorry. I'll be really up for that. And he was really excited about doing it, because it's a different kind of question. That's why I wanted to ask you, Dave, because it's not like, oh, can you sign this? Can you do this drawing for me or anything like that? It was just a bit of fun as well. And looking at your work,
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, looking at your work, it's you're the right kind of person,
I mean, comics really are that sort of. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm between the literature bit and the filmmaking. It's kind of a creative storyboarding process, isn't it? Comics. So it's
absolutely, yeah.
It's straight in the middle of both Ramsey and Alex. So
yeah,
it's an interesting concept. Yeah.
So how did you not necessarily get started in comics or anything like that? How did you when did you first do kind of slightly darker work? Because it's not all that kind of thing. It's because obviously you've got like
It
Inktober
started,
paintings. Yeah, how did it start?
it started so long ago. I mean, it started when I was about 4 or 5, I think. Like most kids, I had a problem with my eyes. I've got a slight astigmatism, and I had an operation at 3, which meant that I couldn't see very well, and my hand-eye coordination was all over the place. And I went to school and had this. My first teacher was a hideous teacher. She was just horrible, and I couldn't draw. And she told this story of Saint George and the Dragon, and I couldn't. Didn't know where to start with a dragon. I had no idea. So I said to her, I can't draw. I don't know what to do. And she more or less ridiculed me in front of the whole class. I'm only 5 with a dodgy eye, but she fired something up in me, and
Yeah.
I went to see Sleeping Beauty, the Disney Sleeping Beauty, and saw Maleficent.
Oh, magnificent work.
And that dragon at the end, I thought, that's a dragon. So I went through, I can remember I had a blackboard in my bedroom. I just drew this dragon over and over again. I still think some of that stylings is still there in my later work. I can still, and that was where I started really getting fascinated with the darker side, because Maleficent was such a fantastic Geiger-esque design, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Even for a Disney.
Like the work, it's just absolutely beautiful, isn't it? I can actually think of a piece of your work. I don't know the name of it. It looks like one of the wraiths from Lord of the Rings. It's a black and white piece. I think it might be one of your paintings. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
With the
bear
traps
like,
on the yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's so good. I've shown your work to so many people now, because it's really exciting for me to speak to filmmakers and artists like yourself, and they love that piece. They really love that piece. And there's key pieces I show people as well. So
I mean, that's one of my favorites. Yeah, it's on my desktop. I'm looking at it now. It's on my desktop now.
I watched your the video you put out for 2000 AD on going through a panel.
Oh, the process, yeah.
Yeah, with the 3 eyes on the head.
Yeah, that's just one panel out of hundreds. Yeah.
Oh, I can only imagine.
I'm currently on the next one, but the next story is going quite well. It's more of a we've gone away from the main story for a bit, just have a rest. But we're doing an anthology series of horror stories based around the Dark Judge world. So it's particularly dark.
It's magnificent work, mate. It really is. And
I mean, sorry.
No, you were saying that. So that was your kind of first foray into it, was coming up with the dragon after you saw Sleeping Beauty.
Well, I mean, because I was only 5 years old, but within a year, she'd fired up something in me, which I think it was pure revenge. I think I was going to make sure that I wasn't going to be ridiculed again. And within a year, I was one of the best artists, not only in my year, but a couple of years above me. So
wow.
I owe her a lot, even though it was a very it was a very sort of quite a malevolent act of hers to ridicule me for not being able to draw. But I do thank her in a way. So, but then it was the old Universal films, like I remember Frankenstein Meets a Wolfman. And I still remember the scene when he's in the bed, Lon Chaney Jr., and he's changing in the hospital bed. And that was one of the first real memories of a horror film that stuck with me. And even looking back at it now, it's still got a real spooky edge, that particular transformation scene. It's.
I think the thing with the transformation scenes in those movies, like in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and there's I don't know the name of it. There's an effect I saw on Instagram. It was from like a 20s or 30s film, and it was something to do with pulling a filter from past the camera, and it changed this woman, this really nice, pleasant-looking old woman, to like a demon. I'll send you it when I find it again.
Oh right.
And it's all it was a glass filter in front of the camera, like a huge glass filter, and when they pulled it past, it's seamless. It's seamless.
Yeah.
It's a piece of magic. And the thing with those transformation scenes for me, especially like the one you pointed out, is when they transform, there's obviously several stages. You don't know what's underneath the next layer of the effect, if you know what I mean, when you see it happening. So it's like Bill Bixby when he was turning into the Incredible Hulk. I think that those transformation scenes for me were the most effective, when something that's kind of, like the John Landis American Werewolf in London. It's a magnificent piece of work by Rick Baker.
Yeah. I particularly like the Howling. I mean, I remember the Howling transformation used to get me because,
Oh yeah.
and I like the fact that they said was it that was Rob Bottin, wasn't it, who did the Howling?
Yeah. Oh, genius!
But
Absolute genius.
But he said that all the neck pieces bulging and stuff were a mistake, which due to their inexperience
Really?
in the actual process of creating these bladders. I believe one of the bladders almost choked the actor because
Oh, Rob
it was
Picardo. Yeah.
pushing into his larynx. So, well, I really like that weird, bulgy, like a
It's
slightly
great. It's
off,
really. Yeah, it's
and it's
like whenever you see
off.
something under the skin in a film, you kind of think about your own body, don't you? And when you see that effect, that bladder effect, I didn't know it was like a bladder. I didn't know it was a mistake. It's a magnificent effect, and when, I think he's in like a pawn shop or a sex shop or something, isn't he? And he's in
That's the
that.
first time, yeah.
He's in the booth, and oh god, it's such a good transformation scene. It really, really is.
I mean, there's the second one, isn't it? When he's in the doctor's office and
Yeah.
he's been covered in acid or something, and he's half his face is missing, but he has this change come. Oh no, he's actually with the main actress Dee Wallace, and
Yeah.
I think the bladders were there for on purpose, but I think some of them just went out of control. But I also like there's an element where you can see what the actual artistry, because he chooses a Japanese demon mask as part of the design of the lips go up, and suddenly you're looking at a demon, an oni demon from sort of Japanese theatre.
I can see that now. I can see that. I didn't think about it. I can totally see that now. Yeah.
And you think, obviously, it's a lot of influences going on. He's obviously introducing, monsters from other places and other cultures, which that amazed me. I thought, wow, that's a great, because it's so obvious that it must be intentional.
Yeah.
So it looks you could just swap it with a demon mask from Japan. You go, wow, that's
absolutely. I can picture it. You're absolutely right. Yeah, it's.
Take a look next time you see that scene. And
no, I do love it. I love. There's something very kind of raw and scary about the very end with Dee Wallace turning on TV. It's very scary. It's like something about the way they shoot the screens, and she's doing a news broadcast. Do you see it completely turn at the end?
She turns.
Like
I think
a teddy
she
bear
said,
or something like that, isn't it?
It's like a chihuahua, but I think she said she didn't want to be one of the horrible werewolves. She didn't want to look like one of the, the foul werewolves, which were, the sort of obvious ones from earlier on. So she wanted a special blonde Barbie werewolf, I think, slightly.
Oh no! And have you seen the second? Have you seen the second Howling? The one with
Probably
Christopher Lee. It's so.
Yeah, that's awful, isn't it?
It could be Howling 3. It could be. I can't remember how many there are, but the one with
There's
Christopher
like 7
Lee
or 8 now, isn't there?
Oh no, it's so bad. Like the thing is, you and I both know if they make another one, it's going to be CG effects, and then you lose all the authenticity, and that's It's such a lost art form now. That's why Rick Baker retired, because of getting pushed out by CG. Again, he
did the Wolfman, didn't he? I quite enjoyed the Wolfman. I must admit, it's a guilty pleasure. I quite enjoyed that film.
Yeah, I quite enjoy that. And you've got Benicio del Toro, you've got Anthony Hopkins, who's an absolute legend.
And some hideous effects as well, and it worked quite well for me. I just enjoyed it. I wasn't getting too worked up that. I mean, I think there's a mix of CGI, wasn't there, and practical going on, but it works.
I think the look, like is it like a medical examining room when he transforms on the table? The look of the Wolfman, I think it's probably the best looking Wolfman.
Yeah,
it's so like the bulk of him, the ripped shirt, the fur, everything. It's really well done, and it really is.
There's a nod back to Lon Chaney as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've gone through periods of watching black and white and everything, so I love it to bits. I watched what did I watch last night? I've started using Arrow Video and Shudder on Amazon, so I watch a lot more horror now, especially with the festival starting up soon. And I started watching what was it, Unfriended Dark Web, and it was about being on a webcam like this. And then the group ended up going on the dark web by accident. So the way the way horror films have kind of shifted now since, say, Blair Witch is huge, isn't it?
I mean, they're mixing as well. I watched one earlier called Headhunter. Have you seen Headhunter?
That's with Nicholas Costa-Waldau, isn't it? The guy from Game of Thrones.
I'm not
is
sure.
it
I'm not
about
sure. I
stealing
can't
a
remember.
painting or something?
No, it's basically a medieval warrior.
Oh, it's definitely not that film then.
Well, basically, it's I think it's called Headhunter. But basically, it's a very low budget but beautifully shot film of this medieval monster hunter, and
Awesome.
he lives in this sort of rundown shack. He's lost his daughter or his wife. I can't quite remember. I think it's his daughter, and he's hunting down a whole series of monsters. So he's obviously being called from somewhere. You hear this bell, and he puts this horrible leather jerkin on, all covered in spikes and bits of nastiness. It's very, very dirty looking.
Yeah.
And then he goes off and fights, comes back with hideous wounds and scratches across him, packs his body full of this black stuff he keeps in jars, which regenerates his body. And then he goes out, but he's obviously hunting down a particular monster. I won't give him too much away, but it's just basically it's just him and going off and fighting these creatures. And it's a fascinating film. I'll send you a link if I can. I think it's called Headhunter, but
I'm gonna write that down. Yeah.
The actual.
No, sorry.
You'll just see a great warrior in leather armor with a kind of a full face mask, like a quite Viking-looking thing. It looks a bit like a games cover, but it's actually it's quite a fun film. But yeah, it's a good monster film, good practical effects as well.
So obviously, you don't necessarily draw conscious influences on your work from, say, a film like that. But do you ever kind of catch yourself when you've designed something? See, oh right, that reminds me of this. Do you ever kind of catch yourself doing that at all?
I'm trying to think now, because my process tends to be I tend to in the early days I would draw on other people's work and horror films.
That's how you get started, isn't it?
Yeah, but now I tend to use a lot of I like quite a lot of real life documentary stuff. So I've got books of the Capuchin preserved bodies and things, and some of that is really horrific. I mean, it's obviously proper dead bodies, but it just gives that realism. You can just jump off on. You're not actually taking it from anybody else who's created something. I'm trying to generate my own stuff. So I'm finding weird anatomy models people have done, or stuff which is based in reality more than anything these days, especially with the Dark Judges, which is a lot about dead people being killed off, and that's my process now. And dreams, I get weird stuff come through in dreams.
I can imagine.
But sometimes I wake up and that's where the Dark Judges stuff came from. I just dreamt they attacked my family one night, and my boys woke me up at the right moment for me to drag them into the real world. And I just did some sketches, and that's how I got the Dark Judge work with 2000 AD. They were different enough that they obviously hit a note with the editor and with the fans, say, "Oh yeah, this is a new take on them." So
was that the kind of Judge Death stuff and all of that? Was that how you started with 2000 AD?
I mean, I started with a guy called Pat Mills, who created 2000 AD with a comic called Toxic many years ago. But that went a bit horribly wrong with finances and the business side of it. But it was a good start with one of the top creators in the country. So that was good, but it didn't. It had a slightly bitter and sour end at the end. But that's life, that's business.
Yeah, absolutely.
It happens. 2000 AD it's been the last 4 or 5 years really for me. It's been great fun.
It's such a well-respected company and comic and storytelling group. That's how I see it. And the Judge Death stuff that you've done, there's something. I think he's sitting in a chair. The one I've seen off your website. He's sitting in a chair. It feels like it's a painting. So
that's a tradition.
That's
a traditional painting.
Oh really? So do you physically paint as well? And that sounds stupid, like a stupid question, but do you paint as well as draw on your?
I like to, but with the comics, I tend to do digital work because I'm getting on a bit. I'm not super old, but my eyes aren't as good as they used to be. So trying to paint comic panels in real size now it's much easier on a computer. I can zoom in and also I can compose better on the computer. I don't have to. It's much easier to do a sketch and get rid of it or change a position, or usually
with layers and everything.
You'd usually draw a pencil thing. I really like that drawing, but it's in the wrong place. But with a computer, you go, I can just shift that over now. I don't have to rub it out, or it's a much easier process. But I do like to do paintings when I get a chance. So,
like the paintings I've seen of, I think it was Wolfman, the Lon Chaney Jr. one. I love that. That's one of my go-tos. I think it's in Inktober or the painting section of your website.
Oh, the black, the grey
the
one.
The kind of grayscale ones,
that was a black and white drawing. That was,
So there's that one. There's the clown with the kind of sucking thing on the guy's neck that's on the main page. Yeah.
That's Pennywise. Yeah.
So some of these are the kind of key markers that, like, I've seen some of your other work and that I show other people, and as soon as I show other people your work, they can see the kind of they see the darkness in it, but they see the kind of beauty in it as well.
Well, that's nice.
Honestly, it's really stellar work. And,
well, thank you very much.
That's one of the reasons. Like when I saw the Ramsey Campbell picture, the twisted fingers with is it a nun? I think it's a nun, isn't it?
Have you read the story?
I've not read the story. I've only seen the picture that you've done.
I recommend it. It's good. It's a very interesting take on. Yeah, it's a take on hell, which is quite, as usual, it's Ramsey Campbell. So he twists the narrative a little bit. So, quite considerably.
Absolutely, yeah, and it was really nice. A friend recommended I should contact Ramsey Campbell, and I didn't realize I really kind of knew of him, even before reading any of his stuff. I'd seen the Horror Cafe thing with John Carpenter. Who was it? Roger Corman. Clive Barker, Lisa Tuttle. There was like this whole horror group, and in 1990 the BBC were envisioning this whole series of the Horror Cafe, the Comedy Cafe, and doing this whole thing about the experts and the best in the field, bringing them around the table and trying to come up with the best joke or the best horror film or story.
Right.
And Ramsey Campbell's one of the people around this table sat next to John Carpenter, and
right.
He was telling me about that, and that's how I kind of got onto him. And then,
is that actually on YouTube, or is that a film? Or?
Just go on YouTube. Go on YouTube, Horror Cafe. You'll see it's an hour and 29 minutes. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it because you got Roger Corman.
I'll just get a pencil and make a note a minute, or make a note on my phone. So it's Horror Cafe.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is not very professional, is it?
No, go right ahead. I leave all these bits in anyway.
Oh, that's okay. I don't mind people seeing the. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, okay, I'll have a look at that.
It's really good. It's really, really
good. So it's Campbell and Carpenter.
It's Campbell, Carpenter, Clive Barker, Roger Corman.
Barker.
There's a playwright and writer as well, and it's Lisa Tuttle, who's another horror writer, and. That was kind of one of the jumping off points for the festival, was like, I want to kind of curate horror films from all over the world. That's what I want to do. And I have no idea how many we're going to receive. I've already had messages and people are kind of signing up to a newsletter, so to speak. A newsletter sounds so old, doesn't it? Antiquated. But people have signed up on the website to find out more information. So no one outside myself, you, and a couple of other people know about your involvement yet. And I want to kind of keep this as simple as possible for you as well. Because it's going to be incredibly exciting telling people about your work and showing. So what I envisage, and I know you said you suggested kind of, maybe you could recommend the pieces of art I could show, and then I'm going to do an introduction about your involvement, and then show a clip of this, kind of like I don't know if you saw the little video with my announcement with Ramsey Campbell's little video in it.
I just had a quick look at the Ramsey Campbell YouTube interview. You sent me. Did I see the interview?
Yeah, there's like an hour and there's a minute and 29-second little video.
Oh, I might have missed that one.
Oh no, I'll send you that one separately. But I kind of want to do the same thing for you, and I'm going to do staggered announcements about how to submit, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
and so yeah, anything you could recommend from your repertoire of work to kind of gotcha and turn people's stomachs, that would be ideal.
There's probably stuff hidden away which doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'll see what's in my sketchbook, because there's some quite unusual stuff in the sketchbook which don't always get seen. So
That'd be great.
I'll curate some stuff for you and see what I can.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Send your way.
I can do things like do a fake Flickr book thing where it flicks through your artwork and that as well. So I kind of want to make a special announcement about yours, and I'll do the same thing with Alex Proyas's footage as well.
Yeah.
Because obviously I can find clips of his films online. And what did you think when you heard about the other judges?
I've always been a huge fan of Ramsey from early, since I was a teenager. So yeah, I mean, I've actually illustrated a couple of books for Ramsey. He was with a publisher called PS Publishing, who do his short stories, and I did a couple of covers for them for Told by the Dead, which is another series of short stories he does. But yeah, I did a corpse with a World War II or World War One gas mask on it. It's quite hideous, so I'll send you that one as well.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, me and Ramsey have sort of I've never met Ramsey, but professionally we've kind of bumped into each other in terms of projects now and again.
Yeah.
But the Hands was just my love story to his work, really. I've done it about 3 times actually. That's the one you like is the latest one, which is more detailed.
Oh, I see.
And I think the best one yet, but I might do it again sometime.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll put some stuff together and see what I've got.
That'd be great, man. Yeah. The one you did for the latest one for Ramsey, it's a similar approach to that Batman piece of work that's on your site as well, isn't it?
Oh, the Batman, the Batman one, yeah.
Yeah, the Batman. When I showed, who was it? I showed one of the filmmakers from the other festival, and he said that looks like a statue. In terms of how it looks and the effect of it, it looks like he's cut out of bronze. He absolutely loved that, and some of that stuff's fantastic. And I didn't realize it was Pennywise on the main page of your website.
Oh, you mean the clown, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did it for just little Stephen King fans. There's a Salem's Lot painting as well.
Yeah.
There's a small girl floating above the snow with a teddy bear.
And yeah.
Teddy bear in one hand and a dead baby in the other. As you do.
As you do, yeah. So has kind of horror movies been an influence, or have you loved them for quite some time?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I can remember, Evil Dead when it came out and watching it, because Evil Dead had this reputation around it when I was about 13, which must have been what? God, that's like 35 years ago, 13, 14 years ago. It had this reputation of, God, this is the scariest film ever. So me and my sister went out to this video store. We shouldn't have bought it, but we got this Evil Dead down to watch it when my parents were at work.
Yeah.
And we were sort of watching it from around the corner because we thought, what are we actually going to about to watch? But we watched it through, yeah. But you look at it now, you wonder why it was so scary, because it's quite dated now in terms of its effects, but it still has that.
Yeah.
That's something about it. I think with horror films or horror stories, they got to have that. There's something about them. It's like with Clive Barker or Ramsey Campbell. It's not necessarily the subject matter; it's the way they approach it. I think
I think the big thing in Evil Dead is, when you look back now, one of the things that's most effective is Sam Raimi's approach to the cinematography and the movement of the characters, like the twitching necks and all of that, and kind of like scattering, almost like it's like fewer frames in the film. Yeah, and it's like kind of approach to it. It is quite scary movement in.
It's quite insectoid, isn't it?
Exactly, like what's the girl called in Exorcist when she comes down the stairs? I think that's the extended version. Yeah, when she comes down stairs backwards and all. Anything with unnatural movement, like in The Ring, where she's coming through the TV and then the bones are breaking, that kind of thing. It's like everything, like that. It's not just the monster; it's everything about it. It's the way it's lit, or the sounds. That's what I love. I love all these facets you see. Kind of.
It's like I like Jacob's Ladder. Do you like Jacob's Ladder?
Oh yeah,
That's another one of those. That's a very Ramsey Campbell type of film, really, isn't it?
Absolutely is, yeah. Like
It's
that,
urban. It's
when I was a young man, and even around now, when I think there's a like a club scene when she's getting wrapped around by the kind of serpent arms or something.
yeah.
It's such an erotic moment, but it's so kind of super dark and evil. It really is kind of Ramsey-esque, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I think that's why I'm attracted to it. It's got that sort of element of just yeah.
Yeah.
You can't really put it into words. It's just that it's that unsettling. You don't need the gore. You don't. It's like in Jacob's Ladder, you see the homeless man on the chair, and it's just this tentacle gets dragged in under the. It's very Lovecraftian as well. This tentacle gets dragged in underneath the coat, and that's all you see. But that's all you need just to get the imagination flowing, really.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. One thing I wanted to kind of touch on was, and it reminds me of Dark City quite a lot. Actually, there's only a few panels on your website. I think it's House of the Holy.
Oh, House of the Holy, yeah.
Yeah,
That's with Mike Carey.
So
Do you
it's
know
like
Mike Carey?
I don't know.
He wrote The Girl with All the Gifts, and it became a film.
Yeah, huge film. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, what was it called? Was it called The Girl with All the Gifts?
Yeah, with Glenn
Was that the
Close
film?
and yeah.
Yeah. So Mike wrote Houses of the Holy, and yeah, that's for a digital platform called Madefire. But yeah, that's pure horror as well.
Those because that's with the kind of Nazi kind of element, isn't it?
Yeah, the story of Houses of the Holy is about a vampire girl of 13 years old. It's quite a bizarre story. She lives with a basilisk who's retired and become a German Berlin townhouse. So he's basically, it's a stone edifice house, but inside lives this vampire girl with a brain tumor, and she was turned at the point that she had a brain tumor. And so the brain tumor itself is a vampire as well, feeding on her. And
I'm going to get this now. I'm going to get this because I want to read that. That's so good.
It's on a digital platform, Madefire. We're still working on it because of lockdown. Madefire's gone into, it's called House of the Holy. It's on the Madefire digital platform.
Yeah.
There's some quite innovative. You might enjoy it because it's got some. It bridges that gap between comics and motion pictures because it adds in motion parts and sound. So as you read it,
some of those things I absolutely love. And when I saw the panels for that piece of work, and I watched Dark City again recently, obviously because Alex has kind of joined you and Ramsey, and some of those panels remind me of some of those sequences when he's trying to escape in the early parts of Dark City.
Yeah.
So it
all feeds in.
Oh yeah, all feeds. It's like the circles that everyone's in, because I know that. I think Alex Price would love that one. It's such a twisted idea that the actual tumor's a vampire as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure where it's going, but she's the stories at the moment. She's been captured by the Gestapo, and they're going to use her as some kind of final solution thing. But it's coming to an end, but because of lockdown, I'm not sure when it's going to finally see the end. I mean, what's interesting about that project is because Madefire are based in San Francisco and are looking to try and get properties into film and TV studios. So who knows? Maybe one day, or hopefully, it might end up in a as a TV series or something. But
you never know. It's the imagery is really strong. That's what I can say for it.
Yeah.
It just takes someone to see it, doesn't it? It takes one person that likes the idea and takes it forward and shows it.
And Mike's a fantastic writer. He really is. He's very good.
Yeah,
I'll introduce him because he's a very lovely guy. He'd probably love to get involved in anything you do as well. He'd be more than happy to.
Do, yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a twisted set of ideas. I love it. And I remember there's an episode of The X-Files with a touring circus where there's a brother that lives on this guy's chest. So it's not like a twin. It's like a growth that killed. Yeah. Basically, there's people getting killed in this touring caravan troupe, and obviously Mulder and Scully go to investigate. and they figure out it's something small that can get through small spaces like tombs or something. And
Yeah.
it's actually the brother that attaches himself to his bigger brother, who's a kind of regular sized guy.
Right.
And it's really twisted, and it's kind of, they've got a not symbiotic relationship, but if one dies, the other dies effectively. And
Okay.
it's that just reminded me of that.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll find the episode name. I think it'll be on Amazon. That so Circus X Files. Okay.
I haven't seen a lot of X Files. It's one of those things
It's a work of art.
I didn't quite get into. You know, there's shows you don't quite get into, or you don't have time for, or
Yeah.
you know, you see the odd one. But yeah, there's a couple. There's one I particularly like about, quite a satanic one about a woman. Basically, I think she's the devil. She's running a school. There's lots of German.
It's
a German-based one.
It's not Dark, is it? A series called Dark.
I'm not sure. It's got a lot of hexy stuff and satanic imagery and snakes.
That sounds good.
It's an X-Files one, but I can't remember the name of it. But yeah.
It's X-Files episode.
Yeah.
Is it where she's like the nice teacher? I think she gets away at the end.
Yeah, she's basically demonic. It's not. There's no. It's pure supernatural, that one. It's not. There's no. At the end of it, there's no doubt really that they just dealt with something completely overpowered and something that they couldn't put in a box in any way, shape, or form. But
I think there's scenes in chemistry labs in that episode as well.
That's the one, yeah.
With like a big snake or something as well. Yeah, and
a lot of satanic stuff going on.
I love all that. I do love it. And now the thing is, a few years ago on German TV, it was the first place it appeared. The HD 16:9 versions were kind of randomly released. So they shot the whole of the X-Files in 16:9 widescreen, but they cropped it 4:3 because most TVs in the mid to late 90s were all square 4:3 TVs.
Yeah.
And when I saw a widescreen HD version, like a rescan, because it's all shot on film until the last 2 years, it looks incredible now. I think it's all on Amazon Prime, but it's absolutely stunning. So when you see that film scan and it's in widescreen, it's because I'm a huge fan of it anyway, because I like the Monster of the Week episodes, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like when you saw the rescanned version of Star Wars, not the new effects, but the cleaner image. You know,
cleaned up. Yeah. I'll have to get into X-Files again. I'll have to start watching them again, I think.
Yeah, please do, man. Like the early stuff. The early stuff is good. There's some really dark stuff in there, and the music.
Yeah.
I used to watch it years ago on my own, and I used to get like my palms would sweat and all of that, you know.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I kind of started this whole thing now, is sometimes I doubt, why do I love horror? Because I sometimes I'm just like, I feel like my guts are going to be churning, you know, by certain films and certain ideas. Like this idea of this.
I'm just going to plug my computer because I think it's losing its power a minute. I'm just going to make sure we don't run out of power. Hang on a second. Oh. Let's see if I can plug it in. I realise that this battery doesn't last long on my laptop, and it's the only thing with a camera and batteries.
I see.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think we're okay now.
So it's I just like the idea of being affected by something, you know, like when I saw Clive Barker's Hellraiser for the first time, it wasn't necessarily the absolute torture, but it was how awful Frank is as a character, the lead character, you know, the one that escapes hell.
Yeah.
He's the worst thing in it.
Yeah.
He's the darkest character in it because he's manipulating everyone.
And even the second one, the doctor's a terrible creature, you know.
What's the line? It's I recommend amputation, and then these things come out of his hands, you know.
I quite enjoyed that one. I must say, the second one was quite good as well.
Yeah, the second one is.
But this is good. It's good. It's Frank's girlfriend. It's Frank's wife in it as well. Is that?
She is. Yeah, she's great.
She's in the first one, isn't she? She's hideous as well, isn't she?
Oh, she comes back through the mattress.
Oh yeah.
there's something really scary, and you've seen this on your research for the dead body stuff. It's when you see like the idea of a human form just with the muscles and no skin.
Yeah.
It really is quite terrifying, but that's what we all are.
I know. Yeah.
And there's something about the violation of the human body or the flesh that's really terrifying. You know, something so close to home.
I mean, I'll just get something. You might want to see it, but yeah, this is this is an example of my body. I don't know if you can see it, but
is that the German?
That's not the recent one, but this is ancient anatomical work. But yeah, there's some. I'll just show you. It gives you an idea of where I get ideas from.
Amazing.
It's called the Fragonard Museum, and it's just yeah. There you go. If that isn't Hellraiser.
Oh yeah, look at that.
And that's in a museum, so it's stuff like that which.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, Fragonard Museum. So yeah, it's worth looking up if you want some creepy old stuff.
I went to a museum in Cologne a good few years ago. I can't remember the German doctor's name. He was on a Channel 4 show. It was not anatomy.
Werther, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he was just basically you can actually donate your bodies to him, and it'll display you in different forms in different ways. He's
mentioned in that book. I think this guy I just showed you is the early sort of early 18th century, late 18th century version of the German guy. Yeah. So.
Oh God. It is terrifying. Like the human form can be very terrifying, you know.
Yeah.
And the one thing I saw in that museum there's actually a donations book at the end where you can sign away your life. Effective. Honestly, there was, and then it actually features in Casino Royale when he goes to Miami. It's the museum where he kills the guy, and the German doctor, and there's cameras that go past him. And I saw it was a pregnant woman. And it was cross sections of her unborn child inside her. But when because I think they're covered in plastic or something, all different parts. I'm not quite sure.
I think it's injected. It's injected in, isn't it? It's a form of embalming. Yeah. And fascinating stuff.
Yeah, there was a disconnection because my brain was just telling me it was not real, you know. And
but yeah, you are looking at real. I went to his show. I think he had a show. I think I wanted to see it, and yeah, you got to really keep reminding yourself these were real people at one point. And
I know it's incredible, man. And yeah, and hopefully we'll get to see some really. I'm not into kind of torture porn kind of thing when it comes to like Saw or anything like that. No. I want some good. The storytelling is the key thing, and I'm sure you can appreciate that as well with working for 2000 AD. Story's kind of paramount, isn't it?
I think it's probably the most important thing because if you don't have any, I think the important thing with horror is you got to have an emotional attachment to the characters.
Yeah.
If you don't care for the characters, you have the most horrific creatures, and things happening, but you just don't really care. It's not. It's got to hit your heartstrings, so to speak.
Yeah. So when people kind of come up to you when you go to these events and you do signings, that kind of thing.
In the old days.
Yeah. What were in the old days for everyone? Yeah. What were the kind of? Yeah. What were the? Are there certain beats that people would go to? Are there certain pieces of work? What was kind of the most popular thing people would engage on?
I mean, because mostly I do comic strip stuff, it's usually the Dark Judge stuff. But I've been asked to draw. I went to a Belgian convention. I was asked to draw a rabbit holding a sword in the shape of a carrot, wearing the skin of Donald Trump, which I did. I get asked to do all sorts of strange things. I quite like the unusual stuff. So I've had pandas, and I have to look through my sketchbook because it's all like old photographs and stuff of things that have been taken. But yeah, those are the most interesting things. But usually it's because I'm not as dark as people think I'm going to be.
Yeah.
and I laugh
Yeah,
quite
because
a
you're a
lot.
lovely guy.
I laugh, and I think most people who've never met me think that I'm just this sort of dark, twisted creature.
Yeah.
But eventually they start. Oh well, can you draw something completely weird off the? You know, it's usually something grotesque and weird, but I don't get usually asked to draw really cruel stuff.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't do anyway necessarily. Although the comic strip I do does get quite cruel, but that's part of the story. You know,
Yeah,
it's got to be
exactly.
done.
So when you kind of come up with a new character, or you're asked to kind of approach something with a fresh kind of look, what kind of stages are there to that, or is it, because I can only imagine you can't just go straight to using your Cintiq designing a piece of work. What are your
Well,
kind of stages?
I'll show you. I mean, it's a bit makeshift, but I'm on. This is book 5 of Dead World, so I've done 5 sketchbooks so far. But yeah, I mean, they start off kind of designs like this.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
I draw in my sketchbook, and I do little sketches and
Wow.
drawings. And just this is
That's
going in my latest
gorgeous, man. That's
strip.
gorgeous.
As you can see,
Wow,
that's
look at
from
that.
yeah, so all these designs end up somewhere. I spend more time on this sometimes, sort of some dark motorbike thing. But yeah, so basically, and that's the final page. So it gives you an idea
Yeah.
of. So it starts off in a sketchbook with the script. I look at what's needed. Spend far too long doing that because I love doing it,
Yeah.
and then I then go into just use a computer to design the page, because it's far easier to compose the page on the computer screen than do it by hand.
Yeah.
And then I print it out, and then in Blue Line, which is just a system. I don't know if that way that blue can be dropped out of a picture.
Okay.
But with comic strips in the old days, you used to use Blue Line. So you draw your basic lines in blue, then pencil or ink them, and then when you scan it in, you can take the blue line out. So you can be as scruffy and messy with the blue line as possible,
Yeah.
but you can remove it at the scanning stage. So I do that with this process. I
Oh, I
print them out as
see.
blue lines, then I pencil them in detail, and then have I got another? Yeah, I've got a
Yeah,
page.
please do. Yeah.
I'll show you a page in. So this gives you an idea. That's the actual. You will see some of the blue line on that one.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, quite. Yeah, I see. Yeah.
Then they're very, very faint. It starts off like that. So, and then eventually I'll scan this in,
Yeah.
take out the blue line, and then paint it digitally with just the pencils.
Oh, that's really clever, isn't it? That's really clever, and
it's quite time consuming, but it's fun. I like to have the pencil traditional stage somewhere in the process. It's fun to. I like drawing physically.
So, did you go to kind of fine art school?
I did for a couple of years. I went to a graphic. I couldn't get into fine art school.
How did you not get in?
I was told. I mean, my art teacher was very disappointed because he thought I was a shoo-in. I'd get in easy, but I think they didn't like my weird stuff.
See, the
And
thing is, I can only imagine now that that's embraced. I can only imagine
possibly.
now. That's a real shame, because it's what. So you almost knock back because you're not doing traditional pieces of work.
But interestingly enough, it's like life can give you these crossroads. So my art teacher then said, "Well, I'm disappointed you haven't got in, Dave. You should have got in." But there's this little graphic design course, a BTEC, at Brunel in Bristol, and it does a BTEC. But it was a very well respected course, and I went there, and I just looked at the end of show exhibition on my own just to see what they were like, and I came to this illustration part where this guy had drawn Nosferatu and monster designs. I thought, this could be the place I have to come. So I went there and met this illustration tutor. She was mad as a box of frogs, but she was just incredible. And she's one of those people you meet in life who was important to me. She embraced H.R. Geiger, Bill Sienkiewicz, and all these great comic artists. She really enjoyed. She was open to being influenced. So that was one of. If I probably got into the actual art design course,
yeah,
I probably wouldn't have gone along this route, because she was also responsible for. I did 2 years of graphic design and illustration. Then I went to a comic convention, and the art editor 2008 said, "Well, you can do this as a job." I thought, okay. I went back to college, said, "Can I specialize?" And they said, "Oh, well, we don't do that. We can't do that." And she took me aside, put me in the office and say, "Dave, you just got to leave and do your own portfolio. Just get out of here, start pushing yourself." And it was the best advice, great advice. She didn't want to see me go.
That's great, man. That's great.
She didn't want to see me go, but she realized that I wasn't going to learn what I needed to learn here in this college anymore. So, but it's life stages, it's processes, isn't it?
They're the people that rarely come around, and if you can embrace it the right way and take that advice and see the honesty in that advice, it's obviously it's been one of those touchstones in your career that is paid off really well. And it's special to have those people. I had a history teacher that I did sixth form in history, and it was a disaster doing sixth form. And she was a big influence with how I approached work and how I approached courses or absorbing information about my own interests. And every time I saw her years after, I thanked her every single time, because they rarely come around. Sometimes you don't realize how influential these people are. And
good and bad,
yeah.
Luckily, I mean, I had the bad beginning, but I've had a couple of good art and illustration tutors who put me on the right track. But
that's great, man.
I think you'll be open to it and not be too. I mean, my first art teacher at school, he said he regretted not pushing me harder, and I was 16. I thought I knew it all, and he was trying to push me into doing more observational drawing from life, basically pushing my technique to a higher level. And he was right. I should have been doing that, but I want to draw monsters all the time. I realized that he was happy for me to do that, but I wish I'd followed. I would have got a lot further if I'd actually been less arrogant with his gentle
I see what you mean,
pushing. You know what I mean? It's life, though.
I've never been nowhere near a tenth of your skill set, but or talent. But I used to draw Star Trek ships. That's what my thing was. Because I was a huge Trekkie, but I can definitely see the appeal of monsters. And when I really started to love horror, I'd say it was early 90s, and thanks to my eldest brother, I was terrified of Chucky and Bad Taste and all these other Krueger. I had nightmares about Krueger and Dracula for years. And I started to draw. I don't know if have you seen Event Horizon?
Oh yeah.
I used to draw the it's not the Black Hole engine. I used to draw that. I used to just if I was in a meeting with you, but it was about my Joe job, so to speak, I would end up finding out I was drawing that thing.
That's not a good sign, is it?
No, it's it's quite, because if you watch the film and think about that, it's a really dark idea that's going to take
beautiful design though. That film is that ship is beautifully designed.
Oh, the ship, it's I think it's maybe it's underrated.
Aren't they remaking it?
Great. That'd be cardinal sin.
I know. Aren't they going to remake it though, or make a series of it? I'm not sure.
I would give.
I hope not. But
that, I once sent a tweet to John Carpenter because he's a big gamer, and I said to him, "Oh, what are you playing at the moment? What are your favorite things?" And he said Dead Space. I absolutely love Dead Space. Yeah, he loved it. Can you imagine a John Carpenter Dead Space film? So
I mean, I think the one game which gave me nightmares was Silent Hill 2. That really did me in.
Yeah. Did you ever play Alan Wake? Or hear of Alan Wake? Oh my God. I can only play it for 20 minutes and I get a chill and sweat and all sorts.
Oh, really?
It was basically, it's not survival, but you're stuck. It doesn't sound stuck in the woods. It's got great story. When I play games and single player stuff now, I rarely do.
Yeah.
I go for stories paramount single player. That's where I'm at, like The Uncharted games on PlayStation are stunning. The story is
Yeah.
told
Okay.
adventure. But Alan Wake was the equivalent for kind of horror and scares. And all you
Okay.
didn't have any weapons. There's no weapons in the game. It's all torch and finding out what happened to people, and you're in the woods. And it was just the music and the swirling. If you got your headphones on playing it, I'd feel exhausted after half an hour. I never
The only
finished it.
game,
I never
the
finished
only
it.
game, yeah, I know. The game which did that for me was Alien Isolation.
Oh, same thing. I
I
bought
could
it.
not, I could not play that for more than half an hour without my heart going, "Oh, I've had enough of this." It's great,
Yeah,
but
that's another one I didn't finish. That's another one I didn't finish purely
I
because of
didn't
that.
finish that either.
I
It's
couldn't.
too
I couldn't
tense.
exactly. Yeah, and if we get uh if we get any films like that where it gives you tense or the vibe, it'll be great. It'll be really great because
I,
that's one.
if you like story-driven one, I do recommend. It's quite a simple game. It's a slightly low budget, but beautifully shot. It's called Plague Tale: Innocence.
I'll have to write that
Have you
down.
heard of this?
No, I've not.
It's
No.
set. It's set in medieval France during the plague. There's huge piles of rats coming out the floor, eating people. But it's about a story about a young teenage girl and her brother trying to get across medieval France.
Wow.
He's got something in his blood, and it's very much story driven and
Yeah.
a bit of stealth. Not a huge amount of action, but the atmosphere is fantastic.
That's the key.
And when the
thing,
rats come out, you keep the rats at bay with torches and flames and stuff. But there's this hideous mass of just writhing, slimy black rats with little red beady eyes. It's good stuff. Yeah.
So what have you been watching recently, or kind of horror wise? What's in your wheelhouse at the moment?
Good question. I don't. I can't. I mean, lockdown sort of made me a kind of. My memory's hopeless, but there is stuff I think most of the I haven't been watching much horror. I've watched. I've enjoyed things like I watched Parasite, which is kind of a horror film.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's one of the most recent films I've watched. And
did you
I
see
watched,
Invisible Man, the new one?
The
Bloomhouse
not
one.
yet. No, not yet.
It's
I've got that lined
really
up.
good. It's so
Okay.
clever. So you've got like shots of, say, the Elizabeth Moss. She's in so many good shows, and she's a
Right.
fantastic actress. So it's kind of flipped where you know how Claude Rains' character in the original goes mad effectively with what he's doing.
Okay.
It's a similar story, but it's like a $5 million film or something like that. So the budget's small, and what Blumhouse has done for horror in filmmaking is fantastic. It really, really is. It's
Okay.
to be marveled. Have a look at Blumhouse's. He's the producer, Jason Blum, and he helped
Right.
Halloween come back. And his thing is low budget. Get filmmakers, give them a chance, but low budget. So
Yeah.
Universal, after the disaster they had with The Mummy with Tom Cruise, because it barely broke even, and they were going to do this
Really?
whole
Okay.
dark universe thing where Johnny Depp was going to be Invisible Man, Javier Bardem was going to be Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Right.
No, that's actually Russell Crowe. So there's photographs of all these actors together. They were going to do this huge thing, and because of The Mummy and Tom Cruise, it didn't work. It basically cost 300 million, made 400, which is nothing because the marketing's always twice the film or a third of the film, whatever. And then Jason Blum, who works for his own production company, he produced.
Was it Get Out?
Get Out, yeah, Get Out, yeah. That was obviously a huge success in many ways. And he was given control of the Universal monsters. And when I thought, I was really kind of doubtful about this, because I thought it was going to be like when I saw the trailer, I thought it was going to be about gender politics and pushing an agenda in a film, and I'm not a huge fan of that unless it's done the right way.
Right.
When I saw Invisible Man and the focus was on the person being affected by the Invisible Man, and it wasn't the actual person who was invisible. It's so well executed. It's really,
I'll give that a
great
watch
film.
then, yeah.
And the shots of her where she's kneeling down and she's looking down the corridor of the house, or angled shot of the room, and you feel as though you can see the Invisible Man. There's something so terrifying about the way they shoot it. I think you'll really dig that. It's really, really well executed.
I mean, I think the films which I'm really into at the moment are things which are slightly off key. So I quite enjoyed The Lighthouse,
Oh
and
yeah. Oh, the
and
scoring,
think
that's amazing.
and Stalker. So I've just watched Stalker a couple of months back just before lockdown, and Stalker blew
Yeah.
me away as well. I mean, I'm quite into these kind of slightly more off key stuff.
Yeah. Have you seen Midsummer?
Not yet, no,
Oh,
no.
Midsummer is Hereditary. Oh, so good.
Okay, I've heard a lot about that. Yeah, I have to watch
Hereditary is probably the scariest film since Wicker Man in terms of in the daytime.
that. Okay,
Because most of Wicker Man's in like the daytime and it's still terrifying.
so it's Midsummer in the.
Midsummer,
I think.
yeah, it's set in. I think it's set in Sweden where they go to this kind of cult type place,
Yeah,
and most of it's in the day. Like I'd say 99% of it's during the day, and
yeah.
it's it's so dark. It's great. You'll draw some. You'll appreciate a lot of it. A lot of it.
When I did enjoy it, I was wondering whether whether it was going to be any good. Was Color Out of Space?
Yeah, Richard Stanley.
Nick Cage's Color Out of Space, which was actually remarkably good considering the effects were
Alex
really.
Proyas, the last live stream interview was with the director of that film, Richard Stanley.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed that. It was good. It was.
Yeah, Ramsey
Nick Cage
loved that as well. Yeah, Ramsey.
Nick Cage chewed the scenery a bit, but most of it was quite hideous and quite well done, and it had it didn't push the gruesome too much.
Yeah,
but the monsters were great.
There was one I'm going to watch that reminds me of that. I'm going to watch it tonight after we finish, called The Beach House.
Okay.
It's a new one. It's on Shudder, which is a channel through Amazon. And
I might have to get Shudder. That's a horror one, isn't it?
It's 7-day free trial as well.
Okay.
So you can cancel it within the 7 days, and then you don't have to pay anything. But there's Arrow.
What's that called?
It's called The Beach House.
Okay. I'll make a note of that. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna send you one of the films from the other festival. Now, there's a filmmaker called Ian Rayburn, and he submitted a film called Days, and he came second in the overall awards. There was top 3, and there's different categories. And he recommended Shudder to me and The Beach House, and it looks fantastic. So I'll send you Ian's film Days, and he'll love the fact I've sent you the film as well because he's seen your work.
Okay, lovely. Okay.
But he's gonna make a film for the festival for us. So yeah, let's talk about a little bit of that process. The process is going to be dead simple, and that's what I said to Ramsey, because Ramsey told me he gets up at 6 o'clock every morning and writes for at least 4 hours every single day.
I wish I was that disciplined.
I'm like, oh my God. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I wanted to make it simple because everyone's got busy lives, obviously, with family and work and stress and everything.
Juggling, yeah.
Like the juggling. Like I can see why you can't watch too many horror films if you're looking after your kids, you know.
They're quite the trouble is they want to watch them. I mean, my youngest of 8 really wants to watch it. He really wants to watch. He really is. But they're fascinated because they haven't watched it. Obviously, I don't let them see it.
Yeah.
I can remember I was in Scotland a couple of years back. They were a lot younger, and I think it was when we were first seeing the first designs of Pennywise for the new film.
Yes.
And my son looked at each other. What's that? So it's about a clown which lives in the sewers and eats children. And immediately they were hooked. They wanted to know what the story was about. And I think kids they just devour this stuff. There's a morbid centered children who, but I'm very careful what they do see. But you know, it's.
Are they curious about what you do? Do you show them your work?
Now and again, yeah, they know what I do. They watch me draw. They know that I do monsters and weird stuff. And
do they ask you to do any drawings?
No, they do a lot of the drawings themselves. I mean,
awesome,
they draw an awful lot. I mean, my youngest is pretty good, to be honest. Even though I'm not biased, I would criticize him, but he actually has got that. He would draw anything going. I mean, my eldest is more of a cartoony guy. So he likes Peanuts and the more cartoon stuff. But they like bizarre stuff on Netflix, like there's a thing called Clarence about this young kid at school, but it's got this grotesque it's quite a grotesque South Park, sort of light South Park feel to it. But yeah, it's quite bizarre. It's quite weird, and it's got
Clarence,
those.
yeah, I have to check that out.
Yeah, I quite enjoy it. It's quite funny.
So yeah,
Sorry, carry on.
So the number of films it all depends on what we get, and it was easier to kind of send out the films last time in the other festival because we kind of had a number. What number? We had a number in mind what we were going to get. We projected we were going to get like 40 to 50 films after a few weeks of getting the films in, and then it ballooned and it was like over 100. So it was a really kind of great process, and we were so happy curating people's films. And we've only on YouTube released the winners and the honorable award winners so far, because we want to kind of drip feed people. Then at one point towards the end of the year, we're going to put all the films available for people to watch, because I think it's the fair thing to do. And yeah, it's going to be a fun process. And then there's going to be, I think I sent you the dates. It's going to be like a 3-week window where it'll be about 25 minutes of films total.
Right.
And then it's picking one and then recording a video, which I can always help you with, talking about why you picked it, not naming it until towards the end. So it's going to possibly go in a live event, so to speak, on YouTube on the 30th. So if we pre-record that, say, a couple of weeks before that, we can then put it into whatever that live event's going to be.
Okay.
So yeah, I've asked Alex Proyas, I've asked Ramsey. They're both doing a similar thing, and I want to just make it because, you're extremely busy. Ramsey's writing like a crazy man, and Alex Proyas is running a film studio in Australia. So it's it's been great having you come on board, man. I'm really, really happy about you being part of this.
Well, it seems we had quite a natural chat. I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, it's been lovely. No tension.
No, exactly. Yeah, that's the whole point. Is because you don't want any stress. This is supposed to be a fun project as well. And when I started seeing your work after that one hashtag on, I think it was something you must have been you posted with Ramsey Campbell's hashtag.
Right, probably, yeah.
And then I started seeing your other work and go, yeah, I can see the amazing thing in this. We've actually got we've got an artist from Moscow who does seriously disturbing phone covers and pieces of art that I'll probably link you to at some point. And we're trying to get to work with them to design a T-shirt or a design for a T-shirt for the festival. So we're gonna try and do like 1 or 2 merch related things that pay. It's kind of a non-profit approach, and then the money goes back to the artist. So we're trying to do that with them as well.
Yeah. I'll send you a couple of links. So there's a couple of artists you might enjoy as well. I obviously collect art and different artists, but there's a couple of things you might enjoy. Judging from this conversation and what you actually like, I'll send you a couple of links to a few people as well, so you can have a look at some other horror art.
I've got. I wish I could take it off the wall. I've got a horror piece of art by an artist called Rob Larson, and it's from 2000. It's got all these horror characters from, you've got Doug Bradley, you got Nicholson from The Shining. So I've got it signed by Chucky, Michael Myers, Robert Englund, Voorhees. I kind of wish I could add the others, but it's impossible.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That sounds great.
And yeah, I've just been a big fan of horror. Like, there's a photograph of me and Robert Englund at a Collector Mania, because you've been to quite a few of these things in the past. The
similar, yeah.
So I went to one in Milton Keynes, and it was when Freddy versus Jason it was the same year as Freddy versus Jason. I really enjoyed that, and it was a Q&A before Freddy versus Jason on the big screen. So I think Q&As before films are better because you get excited again, and then the film you're watching is there. So I've got this photo of Robert Englund and Jason and the chap that played Jason Voorhees in that film, and Englund's got his hand over my head like Freddy Krueger's glove, like he's going to take my scalp off. And when every so often when I look back at those photos, it was a good few years ago, it just reminded me, oh yeah, I used to get scared shitless based on this guy.
Like, wonder why.
There was an image. The darkest image I remember was being in some sort of weird high chair, and him feeding me my own stomach. That was, and it always stuck with me. And I've not watched them in a mature capacity now.
All right.
Because I don't know whether it'd be the same effect or not. You know what I mean?
No, you don't want to sort of ruin it, do you?
No, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I really appreciate you coming on board, Dave, and
It's been a pleasure. Yeah,
being on this little podcast. So, hopefully, I'll persuade Alex to be on an episode as well, and I'll send him a little segment of this. So, the Ramsey Campbell one's private, so I'm gonna release that at some point before the 1st of August when the submission process opens. Just to kind of build up, amp it up a bit. And what I'll do is I'll put that montage together. If you want to send me what you'd like to see or recommend that people would like to see, or if there's different pieces of work you can think of, that kind of thing, that'd be great.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, no problem.
And then I'll put that montage together. I'll send it to you first, make sure you're happy with it.
Right. Okay.
And then I'll release it after you give it the okay.
Well, that's lovely. Yeah, great.
So
it's been a real. Yeah, I look forward to seeing the films as well.
So, did you think it was? So I sent you the email on the website. So was it like a bit of a shock? What was your kind of initial reaction to being asked to do something like this? Was it different to your normal requests?
Oh yeah, it's different. Yeah, I mean, I kind of usually it's people just wanting magic cards signed. So I mean, unfortunately, I think it got a bit lost in the spam. Your email. That's why it took a while to get to you. But I think it was different enough to think I'd love to do this.
That's
it'd be
cool,
good fun.
That's very cool. And it's great, isn't it? Like yourself, because I know you said you're intimidated, but they got people from 3 different disciplines, and it's great to have that. And I think it's perfect having 3. I think that's what we're set for now. And I didn't even get to ask you or mention World of Warcraft, but I saw your work years ago, and I hadn't even realized it was a guy with kind of tiered armor. I think it's the second picture on your World of Warcraft stuff.
Okay.
Millions of people have seen your work now, and it's that's how I originally saw your stuff, and I hadn't even know who you were at that point, so.
Oh yeah.
Like some of those big demon things with like the huge dragons with the 2 heads and the light. Oh, it's great stuff, man.
It's pretty. Yeah, it's good fun stuff. I mean, it's quite hard to do stuff for them because it's they have to keep it very much on model now.
Yeah.
There's not as much room to. I don't do anything for them now because it got rather tense trying to get the right shape of orc tooth or the right type of armor. It did. I found it quite constricting. I think my partner said, "No, you got to lose this job. It's doing your head in."
Yeah, it's like like Rick Baker and the effects, like the amount of notes and everything he's been given. Like I can only imagine the kind of notes you were getting from Blizzard because it's such a massive company now as well.
When there's big money, billions of pounds, it's
my God,
it kills the art a little bit. It's art by committee.
Yeah,
and art by committee doesn't work very well.
No,
and that's what's great about 2000 AD. It's very free. It's a very I just get on with it. The editor doesn't get too involved. He's happy with what I do, and it's a wonderful way to work, really.
Absolutely, yeah. And thank you very much, Dave. This has been great.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
We'll keep in touch. I'll send you the messages every so often on email and that, and I'll send you some of those links I've discussed, like Days and a few other bits and bobs. I'm going to check out Headhunters as well. That sounds great. Is it Headhunter or Headhunters?
I'll have a look. I'll send you a link. Type in Headhunter and see if you get a shot of what looks like a computer game cover for a Viking game, but it's leather, dirty armor.
That sounds
I think it's called Headhunter. He just hunts monsters, but it's quite low budget, but it's got a real nice. Yeah, it's got, like I said about these films, it's got a feel to it, which you go, this is hitting the right notes here.
One little last question: have you ever been asked to do movie posters or concept art for film or any TV?
I was asked once by the guy who did Solomon Kane. He did a second Silent Hill, but I was asked to do some work for that, but that didn't come off. But no, I haven't done much film stuff, to be honest. I'm open to it.
I've got, I think, about 500 film posters from the last 30 years or so. I've like bits and bobs here and there. and I got like Dragon Slayer. Have you seen the Dragon Slayer poster? It's a
Oh, a
beautiful,
long time
it's
ago,
a
yeah.
beautiful one. It's not the greatest film, but the poster's amazing. It
I
looks
watched it
like
recently. It's quite. Sorry.
like Peter
It's quite a dark
McNichol.
film, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and the poster reminds me of Hero Quest, and it's got like
Yeah.
a vibe to it, you know.
Yeah.
And I just realised that my Hero Quest I've got fully boxed at home is £150 worth now.
Crazy, isn't
Which
it?
is crazy. Like, people have gone crazy for these original board games. Anyway,
I know.
that's a little tangent. But yeah, I really do appreciate involvement, Dave, and I'll
Thank
keep
you,
you up to
Alex.
date, mate. And I'll send this interview to Ramsey, and I'll send it to Alex when I speak to him next as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Because I'm
Appreciate
sure
Alex.
I'm sure I'm going to mention the House of the Holy, and I'll send him those shots as well, because I think he'll really dig that stuff.
I'll try and find the link from Madefire as well.
Yeah, please do.
I think you've got to pay for it, but you know, we'll see. I'll see what I can manage.
No,
anyway, Alex, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely, man. All those things I can mention during the little adverts and stuff we make as well.
That's great stuff. Well, thank you, Alex, and talk soon, I hope.
Yeah, see you soon, mate. Yeah, take it easy.
Take care then.
Bye-bye.
I'll hit the leave button, shall I?
Yeah, bye-bye.